Hey Wake family, welcome back. My name is Shanna and I am so excited to give you the intro into our brand new series called Unseen Things. And I think a great way to set this up is to acknowledge the fact that spooky season is upon us. Halloween is about a month away. And I know that not everybody celebrates Halloween, but the reason that I bring it up is because Halloween is the time of year that brings about a lot of people dressing up in different characters, different kind of creepy things from different scary movies, and overall, just a enchantment with things that are unseen or not normal or out of our understanding. And we see this a lot with scary movies, right? There are scary movies entirely dedicated to this creepy genre, to supernatural occurrences and happenings, and things like that. And so we know that the world is infatuated with a world that they cannot see. And what we're going to talk about within this series is actually that the Bible has things to say about some of these unseen things. Now, obviously, within a lot of scary movies, there are monsters and things that are just not of this world because they're just not real. But they are very scary and came from some creepy minds. But there are some things, like paranormal things, that actually are talked about within the Bible, that there are these truly evil occurrences within our world that are real. And God gives us His Word so that we can have an understanding of how to approach certain subjects like this, like angels, demons, Satan himself, the presence of evil in our world. And we are meant to have an understanding. We're not meant to just be blind to those things. And God actually gives us His Word as a gift to understand and then know how to handle those things when they happen or when we encounter them. And so we're going to actually look at Ephesians 6 first, verse 12 in particular, because it kind of just sets up exactly what this series at large is talking about. And then we'll dive into what I want you guys to discuss specifically today within your small groups. So at verse 12, it says, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places." So, it's not just the bad stuff that we're seeing all around the world. Like, there's a lot of chaos in our world just today, just recently, just within the past 2 years. There are countless things that we can point out and be like, that was chaotic, that was awful. There is obvious evil present in this world, but there's even just division, right? Like, we see that within politics, we see that within having differing opinions on all kinds of things, just to be honest. Things that set us apart from each other, that divide us, that make us not want to interact with certain groups of people. And it's ways that evil fleshes itself out and divides the human race. And that's not how God intended us God intended us to be. He intended us to be united. But how did this all begin? If we're going to talk about evil things, unseen things, greater, weirder presences within the supernatural world, we have to understand how it all started. And so today we're going to look at the presence of evil in the world. And in order to understand how it began, we have to go to the beginning. So we're going to start within Genesis. And so something that you guys will be discussing today is, how does a good God who created everything perfectly, because that's what we see within the creation story. You look at Genesis 1, 2, and 3, when God created the world and it was good, and God created mankind in His image, and it was very good. But then we see that the devil steps in. He takes a lot of names. Satan, the devil, the deceiver, the evil one. And everything gets all topsy-turvy. So we're going to jump to Genesis 3. In verse 1, it says, "Now the serpent was more crafty than any other beast of the field that the Lord had made." But who is this serpent? Well, Ezekiel, who is a prophet of God, his job was to just share with the world what God wanted to communicate to them. He says this. In Ezekiel 28, verse 14, it says, You were an anointed guardian cherub. I placed you. You were on the holy mountain of God. In the midst of the stones of fire you walked. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created until unrighteousness was found in you. In the abundance of your trade you were filled with violence in your midst, and you sinned. So I cast you as a profane thing from the mountain of God, and I destroyed you, O guardian cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. Your heart was proud because of your beauty. You corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor. I cast you to the ground. I exposed you. And so something that I want to ask you guys to do in your small group time before you come and we do the rest of the message is I want you to think about the characteristic of this serpent, this deceiver, Satan. Because if Ezekiel is saying all of these things about Satan, who was originally created as good, right? Because everything that God created was good, including the angels and all of his heavenly court, something happened within Satan. He made a choice. And I want you to discuss how that came to be, who he was, and then how that then affected what happened, what we know happens next in the garden, back in Genesis 3, where he deceives Adam and Eve. What was that sin that began to take root inside of his heart that caused him to become this way? Take time to discuss it. Take time to discuss the introduction of evil into the world. And then I'll see you downstairs in the garage for the rest of the message.